so MD and DO medical schools in the country.
Yeah, you took one of our good general surgeons from us in Greenville for your faculty, Dr. Ronahan, but I think he deserved a job like that, so I hope he's doing well. And I guess in your budget, there's cleaning materials to keep the Give Lewis name nice and bright on the building right there.
We have gone through a new rebranding process, and his name will still be proudly displayed on that library building.
Good to see you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to talk a little bit about you adding allopathic medical students to your school. Where is that now in terms of planning or instigation?
Well, where we're at, with the support of the Chancellor, the UNC System Regents back in August unanimously approved trying to move forward with the new MD granting medical school. And we are right now working with the Tarrant County delegation to see if this may be the right time to consider that particular program.
Are you planning for that that's not in your budget though?
Well, because of the huge support we've had across Tarrant County, we have all of the money necessary. We can actually come to you to request a new medical school asking for no money for buildings, no money for startup, and no money for operating costs for 5 years. That'll get us through with all the formula money that would normally come. We have all the support necessary to make that a zero cost, so we did not believe it was necessary.
With you're assuming the rest of us would understand, what do you call it?
Well, there's osteopathic physicians, that's DO, and allopathic is what I am, MD. I'm sorry.
So, well, why? Well, I thought y'all are pretty good at being osteopaths.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay.
With your focus of primary care and rural medicine and geriatric medicine, which is great, y'all are a great school, why, as opposed to just expanding the class size for osteopathic students, do you want to form a separate school of allopathic students?
That's a great question. Well, first, we have expanded the medical school, the osteopathic medical school, to a class size of 220. Since I've been here, we've gone from about 115 per class to 220, which is kind of a logical big size of the class. I was approached by the local community, the hospitals and others, in considering an MD granting medical school. We are the largest city in the United States without an MD granting medical school. In fact, we're only one of two in the United States of the biggest 55 without one. The hospitals approached me with an interest in partnering with both the DO and MD school to support clinical rotations that would allow us to develop a primary partnership with the hospitals and also to support growth in graduate medical education. In fact, of the money that we've raised, 4 of the big hospital systems in town gave us $2.5 million each to support the new MD school as far as the financial pledges. They also, which is maybe even more importantly, they have signed contracts to support clinical education both at the undergraduate, well, all of them have undergraduate medical education agreements for both the DO and MD program. This is something enormous for us. When the Osteopathic Medical Center of Texas closed in 2003-2004 timeframe, we lost our primary teaching hospital. And with that, we did not have a primary teaching hospital, and we still do not. Many of the hospitals in the region were very, very interested in partnering with us in a comprehensive way if we add that MD school. So after a very long study, about 2 years in process, we have now, obviously gone to the regents, and the regents unanimously approved us to take the next logical steps.
Why would they just not want to partner with you the way you are, given your reputation?
The hospitals are partnering with us in unique ways, as far as very niche ways, but as far as comprehensive primary relationships, 96% of their medical staffs are MD. They believe it's important to have an MD medical school to support it. We have capped.
Why?
I think it's probably cultural. Many MDs would like to help train MD medical students. Many DOs would like to train DO medical students, and this would give an opportunity for both. It would also allow us to grow another 100 medical students. In addition to the 220 DO students, it would allow us to grow another 100 at a cost really through this private partnership.
Why can't you just add 100 to your 220?
The main obstruction for that, well, twofold. One, 220 or so medical students in a single class is getting to be a kind of a big class for a high-quality medical school. Second, as far as the primary teaching hospital relationships are absolutely critical to support clinical education. One of the big hospital systems, if we do this, has already agreed to grow an additional 100 GME slots through a partnership with the Health Science Center. It's both DO and MD medical students.
So they won't do it without an MD.
Not with us.
That's interesting. And this is going to cost the taxpayers how much?
We have raised all the money necessary to support all the startup and all the operating costs for 5 years.
Or how much is that?
We have raised over $25 million in written pledges. About $10 million of that came from the hospitals. About $2 million came from a variety of doctors, osteopathic physicians. The only living founder of the Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine, Carl Everett, DO, gave both money as well as his enormous support behind that. The other money came from various organizations like the Amon Carter Foundation, Sid Richardson Foundation, and others. This was definitely a groundswell of support from the region and the community.
Well, ballpark for starting medical schools is more in the realm of $100 million, and you're going to do it for 25.
Yes, we worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is the leading firm in the country in developing new MD schools. They developed 6 of the last 8 new schools. They worked on the business plan and really worked with leveraging the resources we have on campus. We don't need another library. We have a great library right now. We don't need another anatomy lab. We have an anatomy lab that can be leveraged. We don't need more classrooms. We'll have to recruit the dean. We're also going to have to recruit on the order of 100 new faculty, both MD, DO, as well as PhD faculty. The UNT System Regents and the Chancellor wanted to double verify the business plan developed by Pricewaterhouse. They hired Deloitte. Deloitte had the second most experience of anybody else in developing new MD schools. They developed 2 of the 8. They confirmed the business plan. And then lastly, state budget expert Billy Hamilton, who many of you may know, went through it as well. So we really have 3 different opinions from pretty seasoned folks, and looking at it from different perspectives, that I believe the business plan is rock solid. Our Board of Visitors, which is an expert group of medical experts from across the country, also went through it and also verified it. So I believe the business plan is rock solid. It is leveraging the opportunities and the infrastructure we have on our campus without hurting anything. We have very strong commitments for TCOM and the other programs for long-term success.
Well, you heard Dr. Calhoun's testimony earlier.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he talked about his priorities were patient safety and then accreditation. Have you had any conversations with LCME, the Liaison Committee for Medical Education, regarding whether or not you could get a school accredited running on that shoestring budget?
Yes. In addition to all the other things I mentioned, the LCME Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General have been on our campus. They came here October a year ago, and we've been in conversations with them throughout this process. About every 2 months we meet with them, whether in person or on the phone. They're quite excited about the opportunity to have this combined, a DO and an MD medical school on campus, leveraging each other's resources as well as the other things. So yes, we believe, and that's part of what the Pricewaterhouse and Deloitte group has helped us with as well, is what is it going to take to go through accreditation.
Have they, do you have something in writing from them, or?
Until we submit the application, the database is called for accreditation, and then they do a site visit, we will not know about accreditation, so they won't give us anything preliminary, but they have worked with us on developing this preliminary business plan. If approved by the legislature, we would take, the next step would be going through that accreditation process, which will take about a 1.5 years or so process.
No, it takes time, but it also, you heard testimony again just from Dr. Calhoun, but I think it'd be true that accreditation takes a certain amount of money, and you're already looking at starting a medical school for roughly 1/4 the cost. And Dr. Calhoun's worried about his, not to pitch you against him, but just because that's the most recent testimony, he's worried about his accreditation with the cuts that are at hand. And I dare say, if you had $100 million for the medical school and we were going to cut you to $25 million, I'm sure you'd be thinking, if you were thinking in the same mindset that he is how do you protect your patients, but how do you get accredited? And it's easier to maintain accreditation than it is to get accreditation. And that would also lead me to, you've got these great set of credentials for your school. How much of your time and your administration time is spent working with this allopathic school in the face that your board scores are down and student satisfaction's down, and how much of your time is being taken away from your primary mission of your osteopathic school?
We've been doing all the missions. As you can see in all the numbers, we've grown our classes, we've grown our research, we've grown our clinical enterprise, and all of them are bigger and all of them are better. Our test scores for the last 4 years in a row have been right at the top in the country in the osteopathic profession. We've been either first or second or third in the country every time for Part 1 and Part 2 of the boards. That's something we're very, very proud of. We've had a 94% USMLE pass rate for the students that take the USMLE. Average is about 92.5% pass rate for all MD granting medical schools. So we have very, very good test scores.
You still have good scores, but they're down.
We've had 3 years in a row of 99-point-something% pass rates. Last year we had a 96.8% pass rate, and what the COMLEX group did is the pass rate nationwide went down. So actually our ranking nationwide for the COMLEX is still right at the very top. It's not that we've gone down in the rankings of the COMLEX scores. They did choose to make it a much more rigorous exam, which still puts us at 96.6% pass rate. It's very, very exemplary.
Well, I have information here that you lost your top ranking on Complex 1 and Complex 3. Is that, you're telling me that's not true?
We've been at the top, not necessarily the top, but top 1, 2, or 3 for the last several years, 4 or 5 years now. But we can get you the details. I can get you the written details of all of that.
Yeah. And your new building, you want to build a 150,000 square foot building for what?
It's for research. We have grown our research a little over 100% over the last 4 or 5 years, and we are tapped out on laboratory space to be able to continue that growth. That's going to support both commercialization and tech transfer type of activities, but it really is essentially a research building.
What do you have commitments to research, or is that something that if you build it they'll come concept? Or
Well, our research enterprise has dramatically grown. That's something that I believe strongly is a part of every great health science center, and something that we've really focused on the mostly primary care areas, cardiovascular research, prevention, primary care, and others, aging and Alzheimer's. All of that has grown. When I was recruited 5 years ago, that was something the UNT system regents encouraged, was develop a financially stable practice plan with growth as well as research, and we have dramatically expanded both of those over the last few years. And the good news is we've grown a lot. The bad news is our building infrastructure to continue growth is pretty much tapped out right now.
Where does the new medical school go?
The new medical school will go in existing. The new medical education and training building will be where the new MD school dean and dean suite would be housed. The classrooms, we have classrooms now that we'd be leveraging across the board. The anatomy lab would be leveraged. The DO students use it, the PA students and the PT students use it, the MD students would be using it in that other gap of time that is not being used. And also our clinical skills lab is something that is relatively underutilized, as most medical schools. You use it very intensely at certain parts of the week and certain parts of the month, but certainly there's excess capacity.
Are you using that $25 million to renovate the building, or where is that in your budget?
No, there's no renovation. The budget from Pricewaterhouse had $21.5 million was operating costs, and $2.5 million necessary for small renovations. And actually, it's a renovation that we're ongoing right now through philanthropy dollars.
Okay. Now, your other schools, your other 4 schools with the 8 degrees,
yes,
they're growing,
yes,
right? Where are you going to put them as they grow?
Similarly, we have the classroom space right now to support the growth. We're renovating 2 areas right now in the EAD building, which is kind of the oldest building we have on campus, to support the PA student growth. We're having 2 108-person classrooms each. That program has grown from 30 students per class. Now it's at 70, and we're going to get up to around that 100. But the good news is, through all the evaluations and everything, we have the classroom space for the new MD school, up to 100 medical students.
Well, okay, well, sure. But you've got the new medical school, and then are you asking for this? I guess the question is, I'm asking, are you asking for the 150,000 square foot building for research when you could use existing space you're going to use for the med school, and are you going to be crimping these other schools in their growth by using space for the medical?
No, we do have excess capacity to support the student growth up to about 2,500 students total on our campus without the new research building. The research building is purely that, it's